What's up, everybody? We are back. It is still Statica season. We are doing the second track today. We're doing Rejoice. This is simple songwriting, and I am your holy cap, a whole lot of S's here. Statica, Rejoice, simple songwriting, and I'm your host, Saint Aria. So we did Statica last week, and the title track. It was great. Love that song, and thanks for all the feedback you guys gave me on that one, like that video and stuff. I got a lot of people telling me that I was helping them to understand the song, which I really appreciate. Of course, don't rely on me to do it. Go listen to the songs yourselves and read the lyrics and try to figure some of this stuff out. The whole point of my show is to really encourage people to engage with the music that you listen to. Don't just be a passive listener. Follow along with the story and the lyrics and try to understand what's going on within the song. This song in particular, Rejoice, is another great example of that. There's a lot of reasons to pay attention, close attention to what's going on in this song, because it actually does have some pretty complex elements. I'll give like a little spoiler for one. There's 3 distinct characters all kind of competing against each other within this song. And if you don't understand that and you don't pay attention to like the different voices that are used, or recognize that those different voices represent different characters, then the whole story and conflict of this song will just go right over your head. So yeah, maybe that could be like a little homework for you before you watch this episode. Go listen to the song again real quick. It's a pretty short song. What is it? 3-4 minutes? And try to identify who are the 3 characters and what are their conflict. But regardless, like I said, we're going to talk about everything in today's episode. But yeah, it's a great song, and I'm super pumped to talk about it. I've been loving this EP overall. So yeah, without further ado, I don't even really want to waste any more time. Let's jump right in. Here we go. All right, so we start off with, similar to the title track, we start off with static. But whereas the static in the title track in Statica was this very soft, comforting static. In fact, we could hear it real quick. Hold on. Hear that? It's like a low, kind of fuzzy static. It's comforting. This is a very harsh, aggressive static, almost like, I don't know, something you'd hear while you're trying to tune your radio or whatever, right? And it's, it sounds like that because it's coming from a guitar. That's actually a guitar in the right making those noises. Or at least I believe it's a guitar. One thing that we'll find in this song is that it's actually kind of tough to tell what's a guitar and what isn't. Sinister Gates, I'll talk about this more in just a minute, but Sinister Gates has really layered on the effects here, which, when you think about it, like a guitarist like him who's been playing for, I think he's in his 40s now, so he's at least been playing, 25, 30 years, and he's extremely good, like one of the greats, right? Like a total legend. There's got to be a part of him that's like, how do I keep this interesting and engaging? Like, how do I turn this instrument into something that is like fun and exciting to use after multiple decades of playing at the high level that he's been playing at? And yeah, he's really honed in on like crazy effects and sound that he can make with it. So we'll see that play out throughout this song, but I just wanted to identify that I really do think that these noises at the beginning they're not random sound effects, they're actually guitars with effects on them. Last thing on this intro is that we get the 2 distinct sounds that kind of carry throughout the whole song, which is in the right speaker, you get this very distorted, aggressive sound. And then in the left speaker, you get this kind of like wobbly, almost synthy sound. And so you have aggressive, distorted, and then like wobbly, synthy sound. Those are going to be the 2 guitar sounds that we get throughout this song. So keep that in mind. Listen to it one more time. That's the distortion. You hear that wobble? Even that little noise there on the left, that like sounds like slot machines or something. Like I really do think that that's a guitar. I don't know what the effects are. Who knows, right? But but that's my guess. Anyway, so quick intro, but that brings us into the full, that really gets us started with the song with the full instrumental intro. So I'm going to let that play out real quick. Cool, so let's stop there. So most notably is that the drums and rhythm guitar come in. Now the bass guitar, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. The bass guitar really only plays the first 6 notes of the riff throughout this whole section. I think it does a small little fill at the end to bring us into the verse. Hold on, let me see. It's just a pickup note. But then, yeah, it just goes do 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 do. Here, listen. Yeah, so bass isn't doing much, but again, most notably is the drums and the guitars, and they are setting sort of our like main riff and rhythmic foundation for what really is like the bulk of the song. This riff, this plays throughout the verse, the pre-chorus, and the chorus, and the first guitar solo. So I mean, this is like the song in a nutshell. In a big way. Now there's a reason for that. It's not just like, oh, they just got lazy. There's a big reason for it, but we'll talk about that later once we get into the lyrics. Regarding this riff though, so this is a very interesting riff for me to analyze. It's 6 beats long, which normally that would imply like a 3/4 or a 6/8 or 6/4 timing. But the way that this riff plays out, it actually seems to be more like one riff or one measure of 4/4 and one measure of 2/4, since those last 2 beats repeat the 2 beats prior. So like, I'm gonna count it out with my fingers, watch. So 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. You see that? So that da na 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 da 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 dum da 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 dum. So that little repeated thing kind of makes it sound like there's just this additional 2 beats. I think that additional 2 beats as being part of the riff gives it this little bit of bounce. It makes it sound kind of fun, like, oh, there's just a little extra here, but it also makes it feel odd. Again, it's not an even repetition like it would be if it was clearly 3/4 or 6/8 or something, right? So you can't ever quite settle into it properly. I mean, you can, but it always just seems a little bit like, okay, we got those, you're in the 4/4 beat or 4/4 measure, and then it's like, oh, there's the extra 2, 4/4, and then the extra 2. And so I think there's a reason for that, but we'll talk about that in a moment. The drums are playing a pretty simple beat. It's basically just snare on every other beat and keeping a nice groove, right? So I got the hi-hat playing throughout. Few little fills, nothing crazy, but yeah, again, the drums don't do anything too nutso. Unlike Statica, where the drums were very dynamic. This one, the drums are pretty static. Pun intended. So yeah, we covered the bass, the rhythm guitar, and the drums, but the real thing, I think this is probably what has everybody up in like arms about these songs, are all of these crazy synthy noises going on. So again, remember, I believe that these are guitars, and in the right speaker you have this aggressive, like it sounds like there's a little bit of whammy, some distortion. It just sounds really angry and messy. But then in the left you get this like, what I think is like this synthy poppy sound, but to me it sounds like slot machines, like lights and sounds and stuff just meant to capture your attention. So there's this like chaotic element to it that's kind of triggering to our hindbrain, where it's like, pay attention to me, but like everything is kind of like that. This whole section is just very like, it's like stimulation overload, right? And I don't think we're used to that. It's funny, we have all of these crazy, a lot of songs today in metal will do these insane breakdowns and nutso things, and yet because of how used to that we've become, hearing something like this actually sounds like overstimulating, even though it's relatively simple compared to a lot of these more complex compositions, right? You know, like what the hell is going on? It's just, it initially just sounds like noise, right? But there's a reason for all this. We'll get into it more later. But yeah, it's just funny how people react to something like this. It's like, I can't understand it. You sound like all of the parents from the 80s who listen to metal saying like, this is just noise. You're just screaming into the mic. It's like, okay. Anyway, yeah, so overall though, this instrumental section is, I mean, again, this is the basis for the song. Like I'd say a solid like 70 to 80% of the song. Maybe, yeah, 70% I think I feel safe saying that. So yeah, I mean, this is what we're getting. This section is fun, it's bouncy and poppy, but then it's also simultaneously a little off-putting and a little odd, with a hint of aggression, I would even say, with how like overstimulating these guitar parts are and how in your face it is. There's like this aggression there. So as we will see, this actually correlates very well with the lyrics and the musical themes, but we're not there yet. Well, I say that, but we're gonna take a listen to the verse 1A right now. So here, let me play that for you guys, and we'll talk about it. All right, so we'll stop there. It's a good place. And so, yeah, the music in general stays the same. We just have all of these crazy, wacky guitar sounds. I'm not gonna point out every little thing that they do, but you know, listen through the song and maybe just pay attention to the guitar in the right speaker and hear all the cool sounds, and then listen to it again, listen to the guitar in the left speaker. That's kind of what I did to understand how these two different guitars worked. But the main thing is we get vocals coming in. So most notably, there's no auto-tune. For all these people, oh, I hate all the filtered auto-tune stuff. There's no auto-tune here, but he is singing a very normal melody. You know, Sinister Gates, that's the name. Kind of just a very static, very like hitting the same notes type of melody. But I think notably and actually very, very importantly, there's like this weird echo to some of these lyrics. So he says like, sign says store, and then there's this like aggressive filtered voice underneath that saying, sign says store. Here, let's listen to it real quick. You'll hear it. It's like, what's that? You know, again, remember how I described this music as being fun and poppy, but with a little bit of aggression. The vocal tone is kind of same. You have this very bland, normalish vocal tone, but then there's that dark, there's like something lurking underneath, right? And so with that said, let's talk about these lyrics now, because yeah, the lyrics are really good. So the first line is, sign says store, that's the name. So yeah, immediately this line grounds us in like the real world on Earth, right? So we're not talking about black holes and shit. We're talking about a store. But it seems kind of innocuous at first, but really the phrasing is very interesting. He says the sign says store, but it doesn't say a specific store. It's not the grocery store or the laundry store or the guitar store. It's just like store. It's just a store. You're just going to the store. He kind of just, and then the second part of it is, that's the name. It's kind of a funny way to put, it's like he just kind of accepts it. It's like, that's the name of the store. The store is named store. It's like, okay. So I think off the bat, like immediately we understand, or we can understand a lot about this character with these lines. So we have a character who in many ways is a bit detached, not really caring about the world around him, just sort of accepts it. It's like, that's the name of the store. The store is called the store. yeah, again, accepting and detached would be the way that I would describe him. Now, regarding that echo, that's what I'm going to call it, is the echo. The sign says store, sign says store. That like aggressive echo, the way that it sounds when you hear it is that he makes an observation, sign says store. The echo almost seems to like assert the observation to him, sign says store. That's what it says. Don't question it. The sign says store. And then he just accepts it. Like, that's the name, you know? And that is, I think, the dynamic that's happening here. We have our character who makes an observation or says something descriptive. The voice reasserts it to him, and then he just says, yeah, okay, cool. And he moves on. He doesn't think about it anymore. Listen to it one more time with that in mind, like imagining that this voice is sort of like just telling him to shut up and accept it. It's like, that's the name. He said it. I observed it. He said it's the story. Yep, that's the name, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's funny, right, how quickly people will, you know, just fly by these lyrics, but we can pull so much just from the first line. We have this detached character with some dark voice that's kind of echoing his thoughts back to him and just kind of like almost asserting that he just accepts the world around him. He doesn't even think about what kind of stories it is. It's just a store. So yeah, so much you can pull just from the first line, but guess what? There's more. So yeah, the next line is shelf says food. Shelf says food. It's all the same. So yeah, similar to the prior line, our character is at the store. He's picking up food, but he doesn't really care what he's getting, which that's like even more bizarre than not noticing the store, right? I mean, who goes to the store and gets food and thinks that all the food there is the same? It's actually a very distinguishing quality of a person, the types of food that they eat and what they like and what they don't like. And so, yeah, again, that word I would use to describe this is detached. This character is not engaged in what he's doing or the world around him. He's just picking up the food, and the voice in my ear, you know, shelf says food. Yep, it's food. I'm just getting it. It's all the same. That's our character, right? And so, again, a lot to pull just from the first two lines about the dynamic here and what we're talking about. So the next line is can says beer, mostly foam. I think this even takes it a step further. It's not even that he's, you know, detached and sort of accepting of the world around him. He's almost like just totally carefree, almost careless in how carefree he is. He'll even when he gets the beer or the food or the beer, he doesn't even care that he's not even getting the drink. So there's like this element of emptiness to it where he's just, what I'm saying is that maybe he doesn't care about the world around him, and that's a quality, but he doesn't even seem to care about what he's like, the value of the things that he's engaging in. So even though he goes and picks up the beer, he doesn't even really seem to care that it's mostly foam. He's not even getting the beer that he went there to get, you know? So yeah, it's just another layer on top of like, this dude, what the fuck? There's like nothing going on in his head, right? I mean, he's just going to drink a bunch of foam and eat food from the store. So yeah, a little bit of we just have a little bit of a brainless dude here. So lastly, we get line says wait, then go home. So yeah, finally the imagery here is after his epic excursion, to end his epic excursion, he goes to the checkout line, follows the directions, waits in line, and then just goes home. What a glorious main character we have. So here's the thing. Overall, this is a very goofy verse, but it's actually very intriguing. On the surface, we're talking about a casual trip to the store from a relatively, detached, not really critically thinking, a character we wouldn't describe as like super intelligent with a lot of critical thinking happening. We just have some airhead going to the store, right? But I think what's important is that these lines give us such a vivid glimpse into the character's mind, or lack of mind, right? He's completely detached. He accepts everything that he's told from the darker voice and everything that he's given. He picks up the food. Who cares what kind of food he is? He gets the beer. Who cares if it's mostly phone? The sign says, or the line says, wait, I'm going to wait. And then I'm just going to go back home. And what a trip it was, right? So yeah, there's no deep thoughts happening here. So the question is, what do we do with a character like this? Like what happens with a character like this? You know, I think it's still early, but I think that we have an interesting character in the sense that he's so uninteresting. There's just nothing really to say about him. He has nothing to say about anything. He just makes these descriptive observations and then moves on. You know, I think the conflict here is almost that there is conspicuously no conflict, which is kind of interesting. He's just as happy as can be, you know, but similar to the music, which is like, again, poppy and fun with a little hint of aggressiveness. I think that this bubbly, goofy attitude that the main character has something a little more sinister behind it, a little more eerie, as we can tell from that little side voice that's like echoing in his ear. I forgot to mention this. Sorry, I actually realized I forgot to take a note about it. But I think the voice, the darker voice, goes back and forth between the left and the right. Here, hold on. So that's in the left. And that's in the right. So yeah, this is it's very specifically like kind of all around him, like going left and right. Like it's like a voice in your ear, right? Like just accept what you're given, that type of deal. So yeah, again, point I was making is similar to the music. This sort of goofy character that we have, and this scenario seems to have something a little bit darker and a little more eerie behind it. But with all that said, let's move forward. So we get this second part of the verse here. I'm going to let that play now. Okay, so the music here is essentially the same. The only things that I would note is that the guitars seem to get just a little bit busier here, which makes sense. They're ramping it up. The guitars kind of represent that, like, well, I'll talk about that in a second. I don't want to get too deep into that yet, but they do seem to be getting busier and more chaotic. But one thing that I wanted to note is that we get a really cool bass fill at the 53-second mark. So here, let me play that. Which I think it's cool that comes after the line peace of mind, because it's, you know, that little dark bass hit sort of it's an aggressive dark bass hit, and I think it sort of like plays off of the peace of mind, like maybe it's not so peaceful, or maybe there's something dark going on there. But I guess you could kind of say it about any of these lines, but regardless, it's a cool little bass lick and I wanted to point it out. Regarding the vocals, we don't get the dark echo anymore because M Shadow switches to a more complex, fluid melody, which is actually like one of my favorite melodies on the whole EP. It's very catchy, you know. Stranger on the street is a friend of mine. It's very fun to sing. So, but yeah, let's talk about what he's actually saying, though. I think that's where we can get a lot of value. So he says, stranger on the street is a friend of mine. He repeats it. Oh, sorry, I got to switch sections. Yeah, so he says, stranger on the street is a friend of mine. Yeah, this is probably my favorite line in the song, honestly. I love this line. I think it's just a very quick and clever way to describe the main character's attitude and worldview. You know, his friends are just the strangers on, like, again, it's I'm not saying it's a very complex line. It's pretty easy to understand. Like, yeah, I'm just happy. Hi, stranger on the street. You're my friend, right? But it's just such a clever, like, it's a very economic line. It has a lot of imagery and a lot of like, connotation that comes with it of like peaceful Midwest town or whatever, like something out of the 50s. And just the character like, hey, how you doing? What's up? Hi. It's a fun line, and I like it a lot. The next line is, camera on the corner gives peace of mind, peace of mind. So this gives us our first glimpse into this world. We're on some Big Brother shit. That's what we're doing. Everyone is always being watched, but everyone in this situation doesn't care. They have peace of mind because of the camera. And the truth is that they don't even really seem to care about anything. Everything's just great and hunky-dory. So why would they care about the camera, right? Why would that even matter to them? They don't even care about the food or the beer. So to them, yeah, this is great. We got the camera. We're good. We don't need to worry about anything. Next we get the next line is, television runs and the channel's free, channel's free. Again, we don't even need to pay for the TV. They just give it to us for free. It's great. And then the last line is, news guy always bringing good news to me, which, yeah, I think again, we're building out this world, right? Like, you don't really have to pay for anything. You just get nothing but good news from the news guy. You don't even need to, he's just the news guy, whatever. Like, you don't even think critically about who this person is or what his name is. News guy just gives me good news. I have the camera on the corner. It makes me feel peaceful, like nothing's gonna happen. Television runs and I don't even need to pay for it. I just get free TV all day long, right? Which we saw how that goes in the last song, Statica. It doesn't really work out too great. So yeah, overall, the first part of the verse gave us a lot of insight into our character, this sort of carefree, detached attitude that he had. This second part, the second part of the verse, I think, does a lot of world building. Truthfully, this sounds like North Korea. Like, this is like, that was the first thing I thought of. It's like, in North Korea, you get state-sponsored television, cameras everywhere, and the news guy just tells you how great, the God Emperor is, or whatever they call him. God Emperor is 40K. That is not North Korea. But regardless, the whole point is, in this world, everything is safe, everything's under control, and there's nothing good but good news on the television. Yeah, the truth is, this comes off as a little bit unsettling despite all of the flowery language. What kind of world is this where our characters and our people are allowed to become so brain dead and vapid? I think the music helps a lot here, and now I want to talk a little bit about the music. So at this point in the song, the rhythm guitar has stayed the same for like almost a minute straight, and it's going to stay the same throughout the chorus as well. And so let's see, the chorus ends at 1:11, and so we do get just a full minute of this. I think the reason why they harp on this riff for so long and so much throughout this song is to purposefully put us in a situation where we're like ready for some change. We're ready for the song to change. You just keep playing the fucking riff over and over again. When's it gonna end, And it's not because the riff is bad. It's actually a cool riff, but it's because they want to nail home or like drill into us using the music this idea of sameness and routine. Same thing day after day. Go to the store, get your beer, go home, watch TV, wake up, go to job. That type of mentality, right? It kind of makes you want some change. Now, with that said, like, you have the staticness of the riff, like the riff just plays the same thing over and over again, but which you get tired of. Your brain instinctively says, okay, when are we going to get a new section or a new chord progression or something? But then on the flip side, you have these two guitar parts in the left and right, which are just going nuts, just playing the wackiest, like most out of pocket shit they can play. It drives you crazy. It's like slot machines. It's like walking through a casino, just lights everywhere, overstimulation. And so it's kind of like, this is the conflict set up by the music. You have this extremely static scenario where you just do the same thing day in and day out, and the riff just keeps playing, dun, 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 dun. But then in the background, there's this increasing chaos which is what's shown by the guitars. Like something's got to break here. Like we're just doing the same shit over and over again. Like what's going to happen? So yeah, I think that's the conflict, right? The conflict is the lack of conflict. The conflict is the sameness. It is the static or stagnant state that our character is in, which again, if you watch my breakdown of Statica, this was almost the whole idea behind that song was that our character was trying to prevent himself from falling into that stagnant state, but he couldn't help himself. And when he ends up there, it actually is a very dark place for him to be. And that song ends on a very dark note. This song starts off with a character in the static place, and he's like, everything's hunky-dory and it's great. I love my job, or I love going to the store and getting foamy beer. But in reality, there's like something's not right here. You know, there's cameras on the corner. Something's off. And so that chaos is building. And so we're showing that with the music. So it's cool stuff happening. Let's see where it goes. So that actually takes us into the corner. So yeah, he says, news guy always bringing good news to me. And then that goes straight into the chorus. So let's let that play here.
News guy always bringing good news to me.
Yeah, so there's our chorus. Pretty cool little chorus. So yeah, again, the music stays the same. The only difference is that the bass guitar now plays the entire riff with the guitar. So listen for that here. I'm gonna start it just a little bit before so you can hear kind of the lack of bass, and then you can hear when the bass comes in. So yeah, that's really the only difference. Now, M Shadows does start singing differently. He's now singing in that low aggressive tone that we heard from the echoes in the first part of the verse. It's like a low, filtered and slightly robotic voice. Let's see what he's saying real quick. So he's saying, all the people all around the world rejoice. We all rejoice. All the people all around the world rejoice. We all rejoice. So the funny thing about this is when you hear the word rejoice, the connotation is like somewhat spiritual, but it's meant to be like to proclaim your joy, right? Like it's supposed to be a very happy, fulfilling, enlightening message, right? Rejoice, rejoice, you know? It's something you hear at like a Protestant church, rejoice, you know, that type of thing. But in this case, in this chorus, this robotic, low-pitched voice almost seems to be commanding people to rejoice. That's what I got from it. Here, listen to it with that in mind, like that he's commanding you to rejoice. It's like, it's not that typical joyful tone. It's very dark and sterile. You know, you better rejoice, motherfucker. So yeah, at this stage, here's what I really want to talk about here. This is representative of that controlling presence within this world, right? That's what I'm going to call it, the controller. That's going to work, and not in the accounting sense. This is the controller in the literal sense. He controls the world that they're in. He's the one watching the cameras, right? He tells people what to do. You know, sign says store, sign says store. That's the name, you know, like that's that voice, this dark voice. So yeah, to me, this character of like the controller who's giving out the commands and telling everyone, you better rejoice in this world. It comes off as very Truman Show-esque. You know, like if you've ever seen the Truman Show, you've got that guy behind the scenes and he's like, you know, he's sitting there. All right, initiate a traffic jam now. Right? It's like that's the thing. You have this character who is pulling all of the strings behind the scenes. What the hell? And he's the one that's sort of setting this world up to be, or to sort of cultivate a mentality of detachment and he makes the people stupid. That's what I'm saying. He's making everybody stupid because he's just controlling everything. So yeah, that's kind of the point being made here. This character is basically telling you, you better just don't think, just experience radical joy and enjoy what you have, because it's all you'll ever need. Everything you love is right here. It's kind of like in the music video for Statica, when Sinister Gates calls someone on the phone, or he picks up the phone and all the music cuts out and the dial, or like the voicemail message says like, happiness feels so good, right? It's that type of thing where it's just like, just be happy, just rejoice. Don't think, don't use your critical thinking skills. Don't worry about what you don't have. Just be happy and you're wonderful, right? It's a big motif throughout this album: consume and be happy. So yeah, the whole world's a facade. So the question now is, coming out of this chorus is, what is our main character going to be able to wake up from it? That's kind of the obvious implication, right? I mentioned Truman Show earlier, and I think that is a very apt metaphor for this song. It is very reminiscent of Truman Show. So what's going to happen with our character? We will see. That gets us into the next section. So let's let that play out. Okay, so this is very important. This is actually deceptively important, what's happening here. So this is Sinister Gates singing. Well, here, I'll talk about the music real quick. So first, and most notably, all of the music cuts out, or essentially all the music. That riff finally stops playing. And what we get is like a fuzzy synth in the right speaker, which is interlaced with what sounds like filtered horns to me, that like bam, 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 bam. Here, let me play that real quick. That's the fuzzy synth. There's the horns. That's all in the right speaker. It's a cool little sound. Sounds triumphant, actually. It sounds pretty powerful, but it's filtered, like it's under a blanket. And then you get some synths in the left, which sound very peaceful and calming. They actually remind me a lot of what we heard in the chorus of Mattel off of Life is But a Dream. Listen for that. You hear that bling, bling, bling? So yeah, it's very peaceful and calming, like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or something. But yeah, so this is a very different scene, and I think the music cutting out, that main riff cutting out, is very important for what this means thematically. This is another character, as evidenced by having another vocalist, a different person singing it, Sinister Gates, rather than M Shadows. This is a different character who does not exist within the riff, right? He is outside of this, crazy, just, chaotic, but also very controlled world that our main character lives in. With that said, he's singing in a way that seems pleasant, but let's look at what he's actually saying. He says, "Faith, I don't want your faith." So remember, the line rejoice, or the word rejoice, has that religious connotation, and our controller character is commanding that all of the people rejoice in the world that he's created for them, right? Now, again, I don't think this is actually a religious metaphor. I think this is more of a societal, government, or maybe even just an existential, like, life metaphor of getting stagnant in your own life, right? I don't think he's particularly talking about God in this case. But still, the idea here is that Sinister Gates' character is rejecting the faith that all of the other people are rejoicing in. This controlled world where everything is perfect and no one has to think critically about anything. Yeah, he is in direct opposition to that, so much so that we don't even have the da 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 over his section. He then says, "I don't want to hurt you and you don't want to cry." So this is a very interesting line. So first off, he sings it in what kind of sounds like a happy tone, like it's almost falsetto, like, "I don't want to hurt you and you don't want to cry." It's the melody itself is pleasant, but I think that the words themselves are absolutely hostile. This is a threat. This is, you better stay the hell away from me or I'm going to beat your ass. And then, but then even the way that he sings it is almost kind of mocking, like, you brain dead idiot, don't get near me, stay the fuck away from me with your stupid rejoicing and your brain dead food and foamy beer. I don't want any part of it, right? So I think that is the message here. So I think this is a good place to stop and just kind of do a summary real quick. At this stage, after this this post chorus with Sinister Gates, we can establish that there are three separate characters within Rejoice. We have our main character, this kind of brain dead idiot who just goes about his day. Sign says store, that's the name. Then we have our controller character who echoes everything back to who is basically feeding the main character all of his thoughts, right? Like sign says store, that's the name. But then this controller character is also the one singing the chorus, right? All the people all around the world rejoice. It's like, y'all better listen to me. Just be joyous and don't think critically about anything, right? Happiness is good. And then lastly, we have Sinister Gates' character, who is sort of outside of this dynamic, right? He is almost antagonistic. He is very, very antagonistic to this, to the point of threatening what I would presume to be the main character with, I don't want your faith, I don't want to hurt you, and you don't want to cry. It's kind of the way that you talk to a child, right? Like if a little kid is threatening you, it's like, hey, listen, toddler, I don't want to hurt you and you don't want to cry, do you? That's the way that Sinister Gates is speaking to the main character in this case. He is not rejoicing. He does not want to rejoice. And in fact, he will hurt you if you try to impose your rejoicing on him because he has a brain. So yeah, this dynamic between these three characters, we don't know exactly how this is going to pan out by this stage of the song, but it's important to understand that, the dynamic that's happening. And I think it's kind of crazy that most people would have never even picked up on it. If you just make it to this far into the song, you won't even recognize that Sinister Gates is portraying a different character. The voice in the chorus is portraying a different character. And then the first verse is the third character, or the character in the verse is the third character. And so it's like the dynamic between these three characters is what makes up the conflict within the song and ultimately leads us to our conclusion. You could even make the argument that it's the same person, just different aspects of their mind, but I don't think so. I think it's different people. And it's just interesting to view the song from this lens. But again, if you don't engage and if you're not thinking about like, okay, this is a story with characters in conflict, how are they portraying that? Then you're just going to miss all of it. And it's a bummer. I mean, this is my whole thing. And I said this, ad nauseum during my breakdown of Statica. You have to engage with your art. You have to be able to use your critical thinking skills to decipher what's going on in songs. I know we're not used to that because most songs are dumb as hell. But, when something like this comes along, especially from a band like Avenged Sevenfold, I think it's really easy to just say like, oh, they're just doing all these wacky vocal styles to be stupid and random. But the reality is each of these different voices represents a different character. The brain dead, main character in the verse, the imposing controller in the chorus, and then the sort of rebellious, antagonist character that Sinister Gates is portraying. If you don't think about the song critically, you won't even pick up that there are multiple characters in the song and that the whole conflict of the song, it's basically the brain dead main character sort of getting pulled in these two different directions between Sinister Gates and then the dark robotic controlling voice from the chorus. I've said this a million times and I'm just going to say it again. Theme and story are important to songwriting and art in general. And that is what will drive the decisions of talented artists who actually give a shit about their art. If you don't understand how to engage with a work of art intellectually and follow along with the lens of theme and story and like using your brain as opposed to just feeling the vibes, bro, then you're going to only scrape the surface of what a song like this has to offer. It's not going to make any damn sense to you. And I think that sucks. And it's kind of it's very indicative of like the mentality of the character within this song itself. It's almost ironic, right? It's like, I just go about my day. Song, I press play on the song and the song plays and I like it. Right? So, I mean, yeah, just imagine missing out on all of the creativity in a song like this because you actively chose not to think about it critically. It's not a mentality to be proud of. And yeah, I mean, it's funny, in one of the comments on Statica, someone commented saying like, I don't care about theme. I just care about what sounds good. It's like, bro, what do you mean you don't care about theme? Every work of art to some extent, well, I shouldn't say that, but like in general, every work of art has a theme to it, whether you are aware of it or not. And most likely, the works of art that you consider to be the best, you considered them to be the best because of their theme and their relevancy to that theme, or how well they stick to that theme or story, because that's the only way that you can make a work of art that's like comprehensively good, which is the type of art that will leave the largest impression on you. But hey, I mean, some people just don't want to engage. They just want to listen and consume, and that's that. So whatever. I think that's a pretty good segue back around to the second verse of this song, where he says, pump says gas, fill her up. Let's let this play, and we'll here, that brings us to the second verse. Let's do it. You don't wanna try. All right, we're gonna stop there. I'm sorry, give me just one moment. Whew. Okay, so the music here is, in the second verse, is generally the same, but it is starting to build even more, very subtly. If you pay attention to the drums are starting to hit random cymbals now, and they're hitting toms and doing a couple extra notes and fills and things. Let me play it back just a little bit. You hear the toms, and then there's those crash hits or splash hits or something. It's like, it's all very purposeful, and it wasn't in the first verse. The chaos is building, so there is a tension, and I think it's very it's an internal tension, right? This is our main character sort of struggling with this stagnation that he's feeling. So we'll talk about it more, but in general, the music is slightly more chaotic in this second verse. So let's talk about what he's saying. So he says, hold on. So he says, pump says gas, fill her up. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. So we are back to our protagonist, our brain dead protagonist, who is just casually filling up gas in their car. Now, this is actually pretty interesting. Put a pin in this, but why might they be filling up gas in their car? I think I know it seems like I'm reaching here, but maybe they're thinking about going somewhere. I know, right? Why would they want gas in their car? Well, maybe they want to go somewhere. But I think that actually opens the door to some possibilities. Are they planning a vacation? It very easily could just be a regular thing. But I think the implication is like, maybe they're at the start of a journey. Like they're at the beginning of a change. Again, might be reaching, but I don't think so. I think that M Shadows was extremely purposeful with all of these lyrics, every word. And I think the idea that like, this is just arbitrary, I don't buy it. I think it's purposeful. And I think that this is, our character is thinking about going somewhere, maybe taking a trip, a little road trip or a vacation to get away, clear their head, something, right? We'll see. We'll see where it goes. The next line is, billboard says, you have enough. Now, this is interesting too. I think that this, this highlights that the world is breeding complacency. You don't need anything. You have everything that you want. Remember that line in Statica, everything you ever loved is right here. That line in particular was related to technology, but the idea behind it being like a static existence, it is the same. That connects the two lines, right? This song is about a state of total complacency, a static existence of total complacency. Compared to Statica, where our character was almost desperate for meaning and desperate for newness, this character doesn't seem to care at all, or so we think, right? Well, maybe we'll see where that goes. The next line is screen says match, say hello. So again, another interesting line. And actually, I do want to note, billboards are typically things that you would see like on a highway. So maybe our character is going on a road trip. I don't know. Doesn't have to be on a highway. Doesn't have to be like out in the middle of nowhere as he's driving away. But it is associated with travel. Okay. Anyway, screen says match, say hello. So this is yet another really interesting line. And, because we just said, hey, the billboard says you have enough. You don't need anything new, right? And yet here he is looking for human connection, looking for a relationship in this world. Why would he be doing this? There's no need for a relationship in the world that's, perfect and wonderful, and you don't need anything. You have everything you ever need. So yeah, and I think this also gives us a little bit of insight to our character. Maybe he's feeling a little lonely. So what's funny is it's like, and this is why I like M. Shadows as a lyricist. He's not telling us, you have to actually think about the words. You think about, well, a little bit of insight, not a lot. I don't think that it's like super complicated to decipher what's going on here, but there's just this layer of abstraction where he's not going to make it all clear to you, right? So like pump says gas, like our character's filling up his gas tank. Where's he going? Billboard says you have enough. Well, why is he looking at billboards? Screen says match, say hello. Well, hold on. Why is he, if he has everything he needs and everything he loves is right here, why would he be looking for human connection? Well, maybe it means that he's not quite as like complacent and comfortable as he initially seemed. Maybe he recognizes that there's something eating away at him, and he's taking steps, small little baby steps about it, right? And I think if there was ever like I think the final line of this second verse really hammers it home. It says, the line is, line says walk, you better walk, time to go. So this line is very innocuous, but there's two very, very important features to this line. First, the controller voice doesn't actually echo the sentiment back. He does a direct command. So he doesn't, all the other like controller echoes have been repetitions. This is a command, you better walk. This means the implication here is that the character was not walking when he was supposed to. Otherwise, why would the controller need to command him to do it? Why is our character not doing what he's supposed to? What's happening there? And then the second aspect is time to go. I think you could say that this is just a normal extension of the prior line, right? Line says walk. Well, I guess it's time to go. I don't think so, though. I think that this line very directly means that he is like waking up a little bit to the world around him that he's in, that is like keeping him stagnant and static and stuck in the place that he's at. And match that up with the prior lines about like he's filling up his gas tank, he's looking at billboards, he's on dating apps trying to like find a connection. This character is primed and ready for a change, even if it's not obvious on the surface. So yeah, it's a really great like extension of what we got in that first verse where, initially he's so brain dead, he's like drinking foamy beer and eating food, but he doesn't even care what food he's eating. And then we got the world building in the second half of that verse where it's like, yeah, this is a perfect, safe world. But now we get, and that kind of gives us then we had the chorus where we learn that there's this controlling voice that is telling everyone what to do and telling them all to just rejoice in the world. But then we got that an antagonistic voice from Sinister Gates telling them, hey, maybe there's something, like I don't want to rejoice and I'm going to hurt you if you try to make me rejoice. Now, maybe this is someone he met on the street or ran into. Maybe it's a part of, something in the back of his mind. It's his own internal dialogue. Who knows? But regardless, by the time we get to this second verse, our character is itching for a change one way or another. And at the end here, she says, time to go. So yeah, very cool. I think that it's really easy to bypass a lot of these lines and miss a lot of this. But again, this is why I like doing this. It's really important to dive into these lyrics and because you can catch so much. There's so much to think about and to point out. So really good. But now with that said, we don't know where it's going yet. Something's changing, but what's changing, we don't quite know. So that gets us to what I would consider to be the first pre-chorus, and the only pre-chorus because there wasn't one before. I'm just gonna let it play out and then we'll talk about it.
Time to go. Here for you. Time is now. All for one. Join the crowd.
Okay, so this is a pretty interesting little pre-chorus, and I actually had a little bit of trouble fully deciphering who this was. So again, we've established three characters: main character, ruler, Sinister Gates. If this is the main character, this is him saying, so he says, here for you, time is now, all for one, join the crowd. So what this is like imploring one person, imploring someone else to join the crowd. Why they would need to do this? Well, the implication is that the person is like stepping away from the crowd. So I think there's two ways to view this. One, this is the main character speaking to like Sinister Gates' character, imploring them to join. I don't know if I like that, because what we've established with our character is that he's already on the fence by the end of the second verse. So then my second interpretation is this is the controlling character. This is like his last ditch effort to sort of convince the main character to like join back in with the crowd, like don't leave. Because remember, I think it's also worth noting, he says, time to go. And then the next line is, here for you, time is now. And I think that those two instances of the word time contradict each other, which makes me think that this isn't the same character from the verses. This is that controlling character telling him, hey, no, time is now, all for you, join the crowd, right? Like we're all here for you, man. Where are you going? Why are you getting gas in your car, dude? Get back in, come get back in the crowd, right? And I think that the character sort of gives the game away with that final scream, which is very loud and gets increasingly more robotic and increasingly more aggressive as it goes on and goes directly into the chorus. So listen to that scream again and think of it from the perspective of like the ruler, the emperor, or whatever of this world, trying to be friendly and say, hey, stay with us, one of us, but then becoming increasingly more forceful. Hear how it like almost roboticizes as it goes on. So like I think that this is a different character from the verses. This is that controlling character, and but he's playing tricks. He's trying to be conniving and convincing. But it, who knows? Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. But yeah, cool little pre-chorus. I mean, other than that, the music it's still playing basically the same thing. The only change is that those chaotic guitar parts that we heard kind of really hit their peak, so to speak. They like just build and build and build until like going into this second chorus, it's like it's like overload, right? It's just like everything's just going, everything's on full alert. So anyway, okay. So after that, we get a second chorus, but it's the same as the first chorus, so we're gonna just skip it. And then we get a second post chorus with Sinister Gates. This is almost the same. The only difference is that we get a long descending synth, which brings us into the bridge. Let's listen to that descending synth real quick because it's really nice. Not that. Oh. Right here. So before we talk about the bridge, let's talk about that. To me, This is gonna sound like, I know how this is gonna sound. I'm just gonna count like butterflies, candy, rainbows, and lollipops, right? But to me, it sounds like a shooting star. That's just what it sounds like. It's even panned from the right speaker over to the left. It sounds like a shooting star. And there's an obvious element of hope associated with shooting stars. Listen to that. Look, I get it. I know it's a shooting star, but I'm just saying it sounds like something out of Super Mario Galaxy. It just sounds very hopeful, very pleasant. It's a really nice sound. And I think that is like, it is indicative of a change. Now, what is that change? Well, it's going to be this bridge, which is great. Spoiler alert. Let's let this bridge play out. That is beautiful. What a great bridge. Okay, I really I love this bridge and I want to talk about it. So we get first off, most notably is we get these lush, grand synths. There's, it's almost hard for me to pick them apart because it feels like multiple layers just meant to fully like bring you in. Like you're not supposed to specifically identify each part. It's supposed to just feel, like a huge soundscape. With that said, there is one that's very discernible, kind of in the left ear, that's playing like eighth notes, going like dun 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 dun. Here, listen for that. So yeah, it's a little bit, again, like I said, hard to decipher, but I think it's on purpose. It's supposed to sound very blended together, very atmospheric, very pleasing, actually. I mean, I think that musically, this is like a total shift from the like stilted, odd, bouncy riff, I mean, listen to this, like just listen back and forth between how so nice, and I'll compare that to so harsh, very harsh, and then again very full, lots of low mids and bass in there, even though there's no drums playing. And so, this is something with Life is But a Dream where people don't seem to understand that the mix is part of the art. So if they mix something that's harsh, not most bands, but Avenged Sevenfold, because they're awesome, if they mix a song in a way that's very harsh, there is a reason for them doing it. It's not that they don't know how to mix a song, right? They don't know what sounds harsh or what doesn't. It's that they have a reason to do it. So in this case, the reason why these verses sound so harsh is because the existence of our main character is harsh, It's like a grating experience. It's not pleasant, versus this like revelation in the bridge. This is pleasant. This is this character having basically like a little awakening. And so, yeah, the mix is part of the art, y'all. And so not everything the mix isn't just supposed to be make the song sound good. It's, well, what are we actually going for with the story and the theme of the song? That's what's going on here. So I think it's worth noting, given how distinct this section is from the prior 2 minutes. It's like a breath of fresh air, basically. So yeah, again, this is all very intentional from them, the playing the same riff over and over again for 2 minutes to build, while still increasing the chaos and tension more and more and more until we get to this point, which feels really nice and pleasant. They're putting us in the main character's shoes, getting us sort of stuck in this routine, and then to the point where we're almost sick of it, and then giving us the breath of fresh air as the character has their revelation, right? So let's talk about the lyrics now. In terms of the singing, M Shadows is just singing pretty normally, nothing too crazy here. If anything, it's like a sort of low mid-rangey sound that it sounds very pensive. Do I ever feel now? Do I want to leave now? That type of thing. So nothing too crazy, but what's actually being said is what's most important. So he says, do I ever feel now? So here's what's interesting. Our detached, carefree character from before is now showing a degree of introspection and awareness about their current situation. I think something that's really worth noting here is that this comes after the second post-chorus, where Sinister Gates, or his character, again rejected the rejoicing, right? Now, again, I think you could say maybe Sinister Gates' character is just another aspect of the main character's psyche or something, but regardless, he's now having a moment of, I think this wording is really cool too. He says, do I ever feel now? It seems to imply that at some point he did feel, and he's now having a moment of awakening of do I even, when was the last time I even felt something? Do I feel anything lately? It's a real revelation. It's like a little wake up call. Am I happy, or not even happy? Am I fulfilled? Am I enjoying what I'm doing in my life? Which gives us the second line. I think that leads well into the second line where he says, do I want to leave now? I think this is directly from the second verse. Everything that was implied in the second verse. He's been filling up his gas tank. He's been looking at billboards, swiping on dating apps. And he even says, time to go. He's ready for a change. He's ready to move on with his life or to do something different. And, or at the very least, he's questioning the world and the life that he has currently and the world that he's in. So pretty cool, very profound. There's very profound things happening right now with this character. He then says, will I ever see again? Yeah. Now the yeah is kind of like an extraneous thing. I'm not going to mention it, but, you could say that he's maybe affirming to himself that he will see again, but it's up to interpretation. Regardless, he says, will I ever see again? It's a little more on the nose. It's like Matrix reference, why do my eyes hurt? Because you've never used them before, right? It's like he's questioning, is he ever going to be able to see things again? But then he says, will I ever dream now? Again, a little bit on the nose, but still very poignant. I think it's okay in a section like this to be on the nose and he's asking himself very simple questions, but questions which have very deep, existential implications for him and how he approaches his own life and the world around him. And so there's no problem with being direct. And in fact, sometimes when you're having a moment like this, it's typically good to simplify it a little bit. If you've ever been in a tough situation, right, where you don't like your job, sometimes all it takes is someone just asking you, hey, are you happy at your job? No. There you go. There's your answer. You don't like what you do 80% of the time, 80% of the week or whatever, half the time you're awake, right? So it's this idea, again, I just want to point out, it seems simple, but they're very poignant questions, and it's good. I think also the idea of will I ever dream now? It kind of implies maybe at one point he had dreams and he had aspirations, and maybe they've faded over time, and he's starting to recognize that, that phrasing, will I ever dream now, is almost like him recognizing the permanence or the permanence of that static state and maybe being a little uncomfortable with it, maybe not really being super happy about that. What, have I just given up on all my dreams? Is that it? Are they done? Is my life over, basically? That's kind of what's happening with this character. So then he says, so will I get lost again? Again, this is a great line, and I think it goes well with this idea that we've had of him traveling or him going somewhere that, unknown. Again, traveling, funnily enough, is actually a pretty big little lyrical theme that we have throughout this song. But getting lost, it's this idea of usually the idea of getting lost is like not even just getting lost, but feeling lost as well. It's like a negative connotation to it. But in this case, it's like it flips it. You know, if you live in a world where everything is controlled and comfortable, there's no risk, there's no change, there's nothing unknown. And so you never get to explore the unknown or discover anything new because everything is already there that you need. So, you know, getting lost can be scary, but that's also the only way that you can discover something new a lot of times. He then says, will I ever lose a friend? Which, again, kind of like the similar line, this is something sad. Like, we don't want to lose our friends, right? But how can you lose a friend if you don't have a friend to begin with, right? And I think that this connects really well to the line in the first verse where he says, stranger on the street is a friend of mine. It's like, that wasn't a real friend. That was a hollow friend. That was someone you didn't know. It was a stranger, literally a stranger. You know that they're a stranger. So this, you know, he's recognizing like that wasn't really a friend. And maybe I could say that I got a friend by waving to the stranger on the street, but if that person passed away, I wouldn't really feel anything. If I lost that person as a friend, I wouldn't feel anything because they're not a real friend. And so, again, taking something that's a negative experience. Remember, this is a character that lives in this bubble of positivity. And so to them, so it's interesting that we're going to take these negative experiences and flip them to explain how unfulfilled and like lacking he is in his life. So it's a cool little juxtaposition. And I think gets really summed up with this last line, which is, or reach across the end. The end being death, right? But what he says here is, or reach across the end. That doesn't mean that he's jumping to his death. He's not jumping across the end or stepping across the end. He's just reaching across it. So what I think this means is it just means risk. It's a metaphor. It's a way of describing risk. You know, not doing something dangerous, doing something unexpected, doing something that might actually put you at risk. You know, a little touch of death, right? Like not too much, but yeah, I mean, to somebody who's lived in a safe, comfy, predictable bubble, you know, this is something that there is no risk and ultimately no reward, right? I mean, that's the simple way to put it, but it's a very unfulfilling way to live if you never put yourself out there or take a risk, right? I mean, I can even say just personally, a little personal anecdote. I mean, it took me a long time to get comfortable putting these videos out. I had the idea for this YouTube channel for like years. You can go back and you can see I started it up like 2 years ago. I stopped because I had, you know, life got in the way and I was like, I don't know, maybe it's whatever. And it's like, but I've gotten much more comfortable with it now, and it was a risk. Like doing things are a risk. I've played in bands. Going up on stage is a risk. Maybe you're gonna mess up, and I've messed up on stage, and it's very frustrating and it's risky. But you know what? That's part of life. If I was too afraid to make a mistake on stage, I'd never get on the stage. To get on the stage, then I'd never get on the stage, right? And so that's the thing. It's like you have to encounter risk. You gotta, you know, reach across the end sometimes and go for it. So now the actual last line of this section, unfortunately, is the controller voice coming back in and commanding rejoice. So just as this character is having this monumental revelation, that controlling voice comes back in at the worst time and just commands rejoice. It's hard to hear, but you can listen for it here. Oh, wrong side, sorry, hold on. Right here. It's almost like the controller voice is in the background, and then you just like, you know, like a filter, like with an announcing or with a loudspeaker, rejoice, like stop it, stop doing what you're doing right now, you know? And that takes us into the guitar solo, but we're not there yet. I want to talk a little bit more about this bridge just for a second. Overall, this bridge is fantastic, and it does give us the last new lyrics of the song. We really only have a repetition of the chorus and post-chorus to go. So the story isn't over. We don't know where it's going, but we can talk holistically about the lyrical content that we've received at this point. So whereas Statica, the song, had a character who was slowly losing their humanity to a stagnant lifestyle, in Rejoice, we have a character who is already stagnant, like deeply stagnant, mentally, everything. And they are discovering or rediscovering their humanity. So this is like, Statica character going down. This is a character going up. It's a cool little inversion of that idea of a static lifestyle. And overall, pretty wholesome. I mean, this is a pretty positive bridge. Now, we don't know how it's going to work out for our main character yet, but it's a nice theme. It's a nice idea that, like, it's never too late. It's never too late to kind of turn things around, go on that road trip, write that book, take that risk, make new friends, whatever. Sometimes things are difficult, right? Sometimes we lose friends, feel lost, and we're forced into scenarios where risks are necessary. We have, the world is a scary, unpredictable place. It's crazy. It's chaotic. And that's just the nature of it. But on some level, we as people are designed for the world. We're meant to take on risk and challenge and embrace it to a certain degree. We're certainly not meant to live totally static lives where we do the same exact thing day in and day out. And I think our character has really realized this to some degree. So yeah, this bridge is very positive. It's very wholesome, and hopefully it works out for our character. But we will have to see. We're not sure. We're not out of the woods yet. So our controlling voice has caught him committing the crime of free thought. So Sinister Gates is here with a killer guitar solo to enact the law. It's Big Brother. Let's listen. So here, I'm gonna stop real quick. We'll just talk about the main solo, and then we'll talk about that second part of the solo real quick afterwards. So yeah, we jump right back into the main riff after that Rejoice line, and we get a very odd solo from Sinister Gates. I think the most notable thing about the way this solo starts is that it starts with him playing the same note over and over and over again. Let's 6 times so it's like we just had this big revelation about change and dreams and getting lost and taking risks and all that, and then this terrible, like, controlling character says, absolutely not, get back in line. And Sinister Gates represents that by playing the same note. Dun, 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 dun. It's like, again, you can tell a story with music. This is one of the craziest things. I was hearing someone say, like, music can't tell a story, can't have a theme. I'm like, you're nuts, man. Music absolutely has themes and stories to it. And so it's like, this is a great example of that ideology sort of. It's like, we're going to shove it back down your throat. None of those dreams, none of that. Do the same shit. So anyway, after playing the same note a few times, which is pretty cool, he then goes into this, like, slow descending runs. And this solo, well, here, let's listen to those runs. So he does a little thing there, but then this is where he starts the solo starts to come back down. So let's pause there. So to me, this is like control. We're asserting control. So we start off like bashing you over the head, and then we're gonna, all right, get back in line. You're a good citizen. Rejoice like a good person, right? So that's to me, that's what this solo represents. Regarding the tone, I think the tone is very indicative of that as well. The tone is extremely harsh. It's like this weird, odd, hollowed out sound on the guitar. Again, the guitar sounds that way on purpose. It's supposed to sound like, we just had this really nice, pleasant bridge, and now we get this ugly guitar solo. But that's because the guitar solo is doing something ugly. It's shutting down the dreams from the bridge, right? And so it is a harsh sound. It's not it's antagonistic. It's the bad guy, the evil character from the chorus, asserting control, commanding that our main character rejoice. You better rejoice. Get back in line, right? And that's what he's doing with this guitar solo. So yeah, again, the tone of the solo might be harsh and sound bad, but that's part of the story. That's what it's supposed to be, right? So it's cool. It's a cool way to portray this. Now that he's sort of asserted control again, we get into this next part of the solo here. Let me play it. No shit. Hold on. Here. So what's interesting about this, well, first off, it's guitar harmonies, technically. This is my biggest evidence that all those random sounds from the beginning were actually the guitars, is because this section actually acts like a classic Avenged Sevenfold guitar harmony section. But the idea here is that, okay, we had to be a little harsh with that guitar solo, but step back in line and let's start rejoicing again, right? And so this goes back to the sounds that we're a little more familiar with from the verses. Still really chaotic and crazy, but it's like we're getting back into that rhythm that we had, or not rhythm in terms of the rhythm section, but the metaphorical rhythm of the story, right? Which is exactly what our character was trying to break out of. So that's kind of it's not good that we're here, but it works for the story. So anyway, okay. So that brings us to the third chorus. Again, same as before. So we're going to go ahead and skip it. My interpretation though would be that the controlling character thinks everything's hunky dory. Yeah, that dude was thinking just a little too much and we were able to stop him. So very good on us, right? But that gets us into the third post chorus now. So this post-chorus is also the same as before, but this time we get some of those pleasant sounding bells bringing us into the outro. So let's play that. I'm just gonna play the second half. Like right here. So yeah. Again, I think it's, this character that Sinister Gates portrays has been, he's almost was an antagonist at the beginning of the song, but by this stage, he is, he gets the final say. So, all the people all around the world rejoice. That character does not get the final say on this song. Sinister Gates' character does. And that, what he says is, fuck you, like I don't want your faith, I don't want what you're selling, keep it away from me. And that, I think, actually, even though he's hostile and antagonistic, it actually gives us a very positive outlook on the second, or on the end of the song. So let's let this first part play and then we'll talk about it. All right, I'm gonna stop it there real quick because we'll talk about it in a second. But the first thing you gotta note is that we have these massive synths playing. Now, there's no drums or anything. It's just massive synths, lots of synth layers. We got some lighter synths, but there's some more aggressive synths as well. But they are, they sound, to me, the word I would use is triumphant. They sound very positive, like we won the victory, right? I think, a good way to portray this is by comparing them to the synths from the bridge. So here, listen to these synths. Super big, super triumphant compared to like the pensive synths in the bridge.
You ever feel down?
Like those sound almost like thought-provoking and like a little sad, a little, well, again, pensive. But yeah, compared to this is like the triumph. So yeah, cool way of using the different synths to portray different emotions, or different, parts of the song, of the story. But most prominently though is that lead guitar, which is right in the middle, that it sounds a little goofy, doesn't it? It clearly has some type of an effect on it. So a filter effect. I think I know what it is. I have an Axe FX, but I don't remember the name of the effect. If you know, let me know. But the most interesting thing is that the guitar actually seems to be auto-tuned. So whenever it switches notes, it's a little bit stilted and a little weird. Here, I'm gonna let the full solo play out so that way you can hear. And yeah, just understand that the reason why the guitar sounds the way it does is because of auto-tune. Cool. So most prominently is at the 3 minutes, 30 second mark, we get this very light trap beat from the drums. Super chill. It's almost like a lo-fi beat or something, right? The synths continue to play and they remain very ambient and pleasant. They set a very like calm mood. Again, super different from the chaos that we got in the first half of the song, right? Or not even the first half, the bulk of the song, like most of the song, right? But the main thing, obviously, is this guitar solo. Now, it's funny because I've seen a whole lot of TikToks about how goofy and silly this guitar solo is. Again, no concept of like, what's the story being told here? So let's recap. We have a character who was stuck in a very stagnant state of his life, routine, sign says store, that's the name, and he has had a revelation that he's got to make a change. He's got to, do something different. And so this solo is almost like his first real attempt at freedom, and so to me, that's why it sounds awkward. It's a little stilted. It's like a little unsure of itself, which I think is why they auto-tuned it to make the switches between the notes sound like that, because it's not supposed to be smooth and fluid and perfect. It's a little like, it's nice if you pay attention to the notes that are being hit. They're very nice, pleasant notes, but it's a little unsure of itself, a little wobbly, right? And that makes sense. I mean, if you're making a change in your life, that's how it feels. But the thing is as he gets more comfortable, the solo starts to branch out and he does more complicated things, And then right there where he kind of does a faster run, we get more intense synths that come in, which again, the word I would use is triumphant. They sound very confident and very, we have this pleasant sound, calming sound, but then this sounds very confident and nice, or like uplifting right here. So he goes like super positive, super happy. And yeah, confident is the word. Triumphant and confident. And he ends on a really strong note, like da-na-na-na-na. Like I don't know what note it is. I didn't look up the theory, but that feels very like we did it, It's a good note to end on. So yeah, I mean, overall, this solo is great. It's a really creative solo. Thematically, it accentuates the newfound freedom that our character was able to realize by breaking away from the controlled lifestyle that he lived, or controlled world that he lived in. it's like a breath of fresh air, but unlike the bridge, which was a momentary breath of fresh air to represent like him just having the revelation, this signals a real change, I think, a real change in our character. He's in a very different place than he was before, which brings us to the outro. Oh, hold on. Let me back it up just a little bit. Yeah, again, really great musical storytelling happening here. So the solo dropped out. Oh shit, sorry. Ashes is starting. Yeah, so solo build, it ends on a good note and then it drops out, and then we just have some ambient synths at the end with this little melody. I think it's a guitar as well, but it's just playing this kind of happy, positive melody, you know, and it's a short section. It's a short little final section of the song, but it's very positive, very happy, and it gives the sense that like this was a meaningful change for the character and they're gonna be all right. It's gonna be good. So we did it. That's it. That's the song. We made it. Wow. It's another one down. Can't believe it. Yeah, so overall, I mean, this song is great. This song is fantastic, man. I don't know if I like it quite as much as Statica personally. But I do really like that it's like an inversion of Statica, right? I mean, Statica is this song that starts off, you know, a little bit more pleasant, but ends in a very dark place, a very, you know, eerie, dark place. Whereas this song starts off in kind of a chaotic place and then ends in a very positive way. Total, you know, inversion of that story, right? Of like one character diving into the static, the other character stepping out of it, and attaining a degree of agency and freedom. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice getting a happy ending once in a while on like a rock or metal song. It's cool. And you know, it's funny, even like the song title, right? Rejoice. It was used in a negative way in this song. It was used to represent sort of a like almost like toxic, like not toxic. It's almost like this controlling, like mindless joy that the chorus character is imposing upon the people. But what's funny is that this song actually ends up feeling very uplifting and very positive. And so that word rejoice has a bit of a double meaning there. Works really nicely given how the song ends. So cool. Well, let's close the episode out, or let's go through the final summary or synopsis, and then we can close things out. So first, what is the telos for this song? If you don't know, telos is like the study of purpose. It's a really important term. You should all know it. It is, you know, in Greek philosophy, there was they studied, you had teleology and you had ontology. Ontology was the study of being, like what a thing is. You could say that this show as a whole is a practice of ontology. We are examining what a song is. But then you have telos, which is the purpose. And it's not just like, oh, why did they write? It's like, what is the whole, what is the overarching symbolic spiritual purpose of this work of art? Sometimes it's they wanted to make money. Sometimes it's they needed a hit to revive a pop star's career. Most of the time, if the song is good, there was actually some degree of like a message or some inspiration that they had to make it. So I just wanted to explain that term in case you didn't know it. It's a very powerful term, and I like it a lot. Anyway, so the telos for this song is this song is an analysis of a static lifestyle, and their goal was to show that static lifestyle, but from the perspective of a person who's fully immersed in it, and then show how they would break out of it, right? Again, an inversion of what they did in Statica, where someone was diving in rather than breaking out. So yeah, in a big way, it's like a darker version of the Truman Show. You know, I think Truman Show is a very apt metaphor. In fact, I think even on Life is But a Dream, they reference Truman Show. So I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility that this is like a direct, like this was directly inspired by it. So then we have genre / style. So yeah, this is like a rock song with 70s funk and electronica and all sorts of other wacky shit. Like these songs are very tough, I think, to really classify into a genre, because I don't think that they're trying to be a genre. I think that genre is like a cultural term that we can use to identify works of art within cultural categories. But with Avenged Sevenfold, you know, they sacrifice everything on the altar of theme, and it's all about portraying the idea and message that they want to portray. And that means not really giving a shit about genre, which is something that they've done throughout their whole career. And it's why I like them, you know? Don't think about where your art fits into the culture. You should instead think about what is the actual mission or goal or message of your art in a timeless sense. So anyway, song structure. So yeah, this is a pretty normal song, honestly. I think, you know, the most notable thing was in the verses, we had two different types of like pre-choruses. You know, the first verse had like a second half of the verse, and then the second verse had a more standard pre-chorus. Aside from that, we had a you know, pretty long outro, which was cool, and we had those post-choruses, which were very important to the story, surprisingly important to the story. So yeah, other than that, pretty normal song though. Verse, chorus, guitar solo, bridge, guitar solo, chorus type deal. Composition. So yeah, the compositionally, this song is definitely weird. So the whole song kind of revolves, or most of the song revolves around this static riff, this thing that just plays over and over again. You know, you know, that's the verse riff, that's the pre-chorus riff, that's the chorus riff, that's the guitar solo riff. I mean, it's just like they just shove that riff down your throat, but for good reason. That's the point of the song, right? So it's not random that they did that. It's on purpose, but they do a good job of taking that riff and kind of, well, they do a lot with it, right? And so most notably, we have these nutso guitar sounds in the left and right speakers, especially in the verses, and then again in the guitar harmony section. It's almost hard to even describe those as like compositional. I mean, they are technically compositional elements, but they are so wacky and crazy that it's like they're not even really playing like real notes, right? They're just doing this weird, ridiculous shit. But it's cool and it works to build the chaos. The vocal melodies, I think, were all pretty normal. I do think the second half of the first verse had that really clever melody, really, really slick, you know, stranger on the street is a friend of mine. It's like that's really cool. And then the chorus, I think if you don't understand that there's multiple characters, the chorus is going to stick out as odd to you. You know, all the people all around the world rejoice. It's like, it's meant to be, you know, not joyful, like particularly not joyful. Yeah. So those are like the main elements of like what we would consider the main parts of the song. But then you have, in stark contrast to that, you have these lush synths and, well, I mean, really, it is just a lot of lush synths. And then that really pleasant outro solo as well, which, again, sounds very janky, but it's because we're describing like baby steps, a character taking their first steps into the real world, right? Or at least out of the stagnant world that they've been in for so long. So there's a reason for that as well. So yeah, I think overall, though, it's a great composition, brilliant composition, honestly. So many interesting elements to examine from the music. I don't think it was quite as good as Statica. I think Statica as a composition is fucking awesome, but this is still really awesome as well, just in a different way. So yeah, then we have the mix. So again, like Statica, very lush mix, but not lush and full in the way that we'd think of a lot of modern metal songs, like Evanescence's new album, like Who Will You Follow, where that's just like super heavy, mid-rangey or mid-lows. This is more of like that 70s funk pop type of thing with like a little metal twist to it as well. Yeah. Definitely not as dry as Life Is But a Dream, but just not quite as like full and like mid-rangey as, you know, maybe Nightmare or the self-titled album, the White Album. Okay, almost done. Lyrical content. So in the lyrics, this tells the story. I'm just going to read it out. It tells the story of a detached, carefree, static person whose entire life is catered by the powers that be, which is what I was describing as that controller character that we hear in the chorus. However, he's either encountered a person, or maybe he's just had, you know, Sinister Gates's voice was like another aspect of his psyche. Regardless, he has encountered this perspective of, I don't want your faith, keep your faith away from me. That helps him to recognize that he needs some risk, he needs some change, and those are part of what make life fulfilling. And ultimately, he makes that change at the end of the song. He changes his perspective and presumably his life. Pretty good little message. And I, you know, oh, sorry, I was reading the wrong paragraph. So I was getting into theme, right? So the theme here is that character who was so immersed in the static, he was so immersed that it almost became unnoticeable, which I think is why he said, will I ever see again? But regardless, he recognizes that he needs that change and he needs to take some risks because his life just feels unfulfilling at this stage. It's a really great message, honestly, like from a thematic perspective. I like that a lot, you know, and I appreciate the way that they were able to tell it, which brings me to my final verdict, so to speak. Yeah, like Statica, this song is fantastic. It's well, it's very positive. It's like surprisingly wholesome, you know, talking about like having positive experiences and not being afraid to like put yourself out there and take a risk and do things that you might not normally do because you never know what could happen, right? And they portray it with every element that they can, every songwriting tool that they've got in their disposal. So you have the crazy controlled chaos of the verses to describe that static lifestyle. You have the different voices to portray different characters, show different aspects of the conflict. You know, it's one of the drawbacks to having a song is that you usually only have one voice, one character, but you know what? You can do different voices and you can have different characters. It's that simple. How about that? You know? And then you just have all the musical storytelling with the guitar solos. Yeah, this song is, I think this song is like, it seems to have the most kind of mainstream appeal, if you could even call it mainstream appeal, out of all the songs on this EP. But it also does have a ton of depth to it if you care to look and engage with it. So yeah, love it. The song's great. There we go. Hold on, I gotta drink some water, y'all. Holy shit. Just been yapping. I just yap to myself. Okay. The last little thing I wanted to mention, and this isn't on my sheet. In fact, I can come back to my mainstream page. There we go. It's me. I just wanted to note, after covering, you know, 2 of the songs now, I've really been loving how on brand these songs are for Avenged Sevenfold, like thematically speaking. I think it's easy to forget that these are like real dudes, like humans in the world, and their music and the music that they release really does carry, it carries real stakes for their career. And as you've seen from this backlash, I mean, it's the backlash to this EP. Well, it's funny. A lot of people have had backlash and they were really loud at first, but I am seeing so many more people lately talking about how they just love it, right? And this is par for the course for them. They've done this their whole career. But I think it's worth noting that, like, it takes some serious balls to do that. Like, imagine having, you know, a hit like Backcountry and City of Evil, and you're like, okay, we made it. Like, we're on MTV. We're successful. What do we do next? And it's like, well, we definitely don't want to make a country song, right? But they did it. They wanted to do that. And I think it's like this song in particular, Rejoice, is all about that idea of like, take that risk. Like, you can't be static, which again, this is their mentality about their career and their lives and how they do things. And so I just want to note, like, it's so on brand for them, because it is a risk. It carries real weight, and they, you know, millions of people are going to hear this music, and it will be discussed for years and years to come. Avenged Sevenfold is the type of band that will go on in perpetuity. I think they are that big. And yeah, so when they do stuff like this, it is a real risk, and it's something that they've got to consider. And yet they do it. This is where they feel strongly about it. They put the work in. I mean, as I've shown with these breakdowns, they've worked immensely hard to make these cohesive works of art. And it really is incredible. It's really great. And so having that type of integrity mixed with hard work and just the balls to take the risk and to continue to grow and change as people and artists, it's really great. And I think this song encapsulates that idea extremely well. But also, again, I just think it's a great way. These songs, more so than a lot of the other songs I've heard from them, really seem to hone in on the way that Avenged Sevenfold thinks about things. And I've been really appreciating that. And I just wanted to make a quick note of it. I think it's worth talking about. You know, this is how they've done their whole career. It's worked out great for them. And now they're almost sort of like putting it on display, like, do it. Just do it. Release Statica. Do something, you know? And it's a good message. It's a cool message, you know? And I really like that. So I just wanted to make a quick note. I've really been enjoying these songs and dissecting them and getting into like what's being said, the themes and the ideas being portrayed. So yeah, with all of that said, you know, I don't like to say definitively what I'll do next. I knew I was doing Rejoice this week. I haven't decided if I'm going to do Ashes next week. I'm leaning towards doing it. I mean, I've already done two of the Lights is, I'm not going to do an episode for Lights. It's too short. I don't think there's enough there, but I've done these two. I think it would be fitting to do Ashes. So I likely will, and it doesn't seem like anything else has really come out that I'm like super interested in. The funny thing is, the main reason why I really do want to do Ashes and why I probably will is that Ashes is probably the song that is like the least, that I understand the least. It's a very odd song lyrically. I reviewed the lyrics briefly, but it hasn't quite clicked for me yet. So I'm excited to like go and listen to that and dive into it. Assuming nothing else huge comes out. Like if Metallica comes out with a new single, okay, maybe I'll reconsider. But in general, like I think I'll finish out the Statica EP next week, and then we'll move on to whatever is next, right? But yeah, I hope y'all are enjoying these. Thanks for all the support and feedback. You know, there's been a couple guys commenting, dude, you're an idiot. These songs suck. There's no way to justify it. But for the most part, a lot of people have been really positive, and I love to see it. I love it. You know, Avenged Sevenfold's great, and it's great getting music that's actually not just like interesting and engaging from like, you know, a surface level. Like the first time you hear it, it's kind of something unique that you're not expecting. But also when you dive in and examine it, it's like, wow, like there's so much like thematic cohesion and such a great story and message here. It's great. So I'm enjoying it. Hope you guys are. Thanks again for the support, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.